What's up, Badger fans? We are the day after the win. Some community thoughts, reactions, slept on it a little bit. How do we feel? Let's talk about it on Wisconsin.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Thank you so much for tuning in as always. Let's get some community reactions, your thoughts. How do you feel after the game? We're going to do this after every game and just kind of lock in the community. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. If you're tired, there is a no sugar, convenient, fast way to fix that. Go to 5hourenergy.com. Use Locked On CFB to receive 20% off your order. All right, so one of the first things I want to do is we got some reaction videos. I said, send them to me. Let me know what you think. A couple of them didn't work, so we'll try to clean up some of the technical difficulties next time. But let's get into some of your thoughts. Again, the community's thoughts after the, I would say, inconsistent win against Western Michigan. All right, let's go. This is starting off with Marty.
Hey, what's up, Ryan? It's Marty. What in the Austin Cafensis was that? My high-low for the game, TBD looked pretty decent. I liked how he threw the ball, good decision-making, can run a little bit, lots of cool formations. I think that'll help going forward. But the low is the completely non-existent pass rush. That was a bunch of hot garbage until we were right around that 2-minute warning and they were panicked. Either way, on Wisconsin.
What's up, Badger Nation? It's your boy Bernie Bango with
Bernie.
this time Jay. That is not what we wanted in the first half. Offense has got to put up more than 10 points. Defense, it's going to bend but don't break. That's probably going to be all season. Nathaniel Vakos, that's your only miss under 40 yards. That's all you're allowed. I don't know, man. It's feeling like that Buffalo game all over again. We better come out hot to trot, man. Kind of lackluster, anticlimactic so far. Western Michigan's got their players all pumped up. Badgers, where's the juice at, man? Let's go. On Wisconsin.
Hey, Ryan, this is Nick. Big fan of the channel. Been following the Locked On Badgers for like 2 years now. Watched pretty much every episode. Keep up the good work. So overall, let's keep it brief. I think I'm not trying to overreact to the game too much. I don't understand why the game plan was to try to limit the possessions and pound the rock when that was what Western Michigan was going to do anyway. So then you're just giving yourself less possessions. I mean, they only had one punt in the game, but I didn't see most of it. I was working during the first half, and I'm not going to overreact to the defensive line getting pushed around because I think their center really is that good. But obviously, they need to clean some stuff up. I think once we see actual shots downfield to our receivers, then we'll know more about Tyler Van Dyke and the receivers because we can't take much if he doesn't even attempt them. So I'm just kind of trying not to overreact too much. And yeah, I don't think it was a good performance, but I'm not going to overreact.
All right, yeah, that's it from those three guys. Appreciate them sending it in. Again, we had a couple more that didn't work, but after next week, again, send me your video reactions. We'll put them on the show. We'll talk about it. Do I feel better? Do we feel better after sleeping on it a little bit? I don't know if I really do, but again, a win's a win, and I want to get into some of the positives. We got a bunch of comments we want to get into as well. Wes Mullenix says it's the same damn team. Dom S., both those dudes are really good dudes, says can't play 2-4-5 in this league. Let me pull up some of the tweets that came in after last night, too, because, again, we're trying to loop in all the community stuff on this show. This one's from Adam Key. He said, don't talk crap about other teams until you're good. Listen, Adam, I cannot commit to that because I was talking mad smack to Minnesota, and I'm probably going to keep doing it no matter what we do. So I cannot commit to that one. This one's from 1070 The Game. Wisconsin quarterback Tyler Van Dyke said after the win, we found a way to get it done in the fourth quarter. So two things with this. Yes, that's very true. Listen, there are teams that lose to MAC schools. Like, it's not, again, nationally, it would have been an upset. Absolutely. People would have moved on in a couple days, and it wouldn't have been earth shattering, right? So there is something to be said about being down in the second half, 14-13, and finding a way to win the game. 1-0, won the game, you pulled it out, and you won by 2 scores, right? Like, that's not nothing, and that should be highlighted. Like, the Badgers did pull it out at the end, but you shouldn't be that close to a MAC team either. Not even a great MAC team. So I think, yes, you absolutely found a way to get it done in the fourth quarter. That's awesome. And I'm not, that's not lip service. Like, that's great. Like, that really is a legitimate thing. But if you play with that type of game against Iowa, Nebraska, I mean, you're not going to win those games. You got to play better to beat the better schools on your schedule, which we know are coming up. Again, let's keep just banging out some of these comments from Twitter that we got. See if they'll come up on the screen or not. I like this one. This was from an Oregon fan. An Oregon fan sent me this. Owen Toulouse. He said, "Get out of our conference, you frauds." He sent me that when Western Michigan was up 1 on us. I thought that was kind of funny. Already some smack talk going on at the conference. Todd sent us, Badgers' inability to stop the run consistently makes me question the system up front. Is that an overreaction or personnel? I think it's personnel. Listen, I've been talking about this for the entire offseason, and people, I feel like, haven't. I get plenty wrong and plenty right. Like, I'm telling you, though, I've been saying it. Like, I don't think our defensive line is great this year. Like, and it's no knocking anybody on that team. It's just not deep enough. It's not deep enough. And that's reflective of the number of bodies we have there. So I've been saying it. Like, I don't trust our rush defense this year. That doesn't mean they can't get better. And I think there's elements they can play. And ultimately, this rush defense got better in the second half against Western Michigan. They really ended up limiting to them that 4th and 1 stop. That was vintage Wisconsin. Are you kidding me? Like, 4th and 1, game on the line, end this drive, and you win the game. And that defensive front 7 balled out and stopped them. Aaron Witt had a huge play. But I still do think that, generally speaking, this year it's not a scheme thing. It's more of a personnel thing. Let's get some more of these comments up here. Look at some of your comments in the chat too. Again, just kind of talking about like what we saw, where we're at. It's a tough one to really chop up. Nicholas Daniel says, so many people overreacting about the performance. If the offense converts in the red zone, this game is a blowout for the Badgers. They had 27 first downs and 388 total yards. It's the first game of the year. The team will be fun when it gets clicking. That's a fair point. Are we overreacting a little bit? Probably. I will say this though, like red zone performance and execution has been a red flag that has followed Phil Longo for a lot of his professional career. Like, coming over from North Carolina, that's something that was a question mark. So I struggle saying, well, if you take the red zone issues out, it's a blow up. The red zone issues are there. You can't just say, well, if that wasn't there, they would have won. Well, Wisconsin needs to get better in the red zone. That's like part of it, right? And I think in those moments when the field compresses, Phil Longo has had some issues, and the Badgers the last couple of years have had some issues. So I get your point, though. Wisconsin did move up and down the field pretty well throughout the game. Like, it wasn't like Western Michigan was forcing 3 and outs and knocking us around the field. But the red zone issues are a real thing, and they got to get better there. So ZNat says, petition for people to stop saying Wisconsin has a Phil Longo air raid offense. Phil Longo, Wisconsin has that pickleball offense. All they do is dink and duck the ball down the field. There is no raiding of the air happening. There is no raiding of the air happening, people. Yeah, I said this at the end of our reaction show yesterday. There is no way this is the game plan, right? This cannot be the game plan if you have Tyler Van Dyke. Like, if you want to go dink and dunk and keep everything quick, efficient, very fast reads, Locke's probably a better quarterback for that. You have Van Dyke here because he has a cannon. He can throw the now. That cannon also plays up in short passes, obviously, right? You can fit it between linebackers. You can hit slants and zones. Like that, the arm plays up if you're throwing it 10 yards or 40 yards. But the point is, if you have a guy with elite arm strength, and he has that, by the way, he has that, then you have to utilize it. I don't know what that was yesterday. That just cannot be the game plan, in my opinion. And I'm super curious what we see week 2. Super curious. Let's get a couple more comments in here. Again, just reacting to what people are saying on Twitter, reacting to what people are saying on the YouTube channel. Mike Lucas says it was encouraging to see UW tailback Chez Malusi lower shoulder, aggressively take on tacklers. Yeah, I thought Chez looked great. I know we go back and forth over the numbers. I thought he was dealing with a lot of stuff in the backfield. I thought he looked really good, and I was impressed with what we saw from Chez. And to Mike's point, like, he's coming off a couple injuries. He looked fast. He looked physical. He looked very determined to make this senior year or this last year, his best year of his college career. So I like what we saw there. Let's take a quick break. Got a bunch more comments coming up, but we are going to take a quick break for our friends of the show. And as always, say thank you guys so much for tuning in. Today's episode is brought to you by Factor. Factor Meals is the best way. If you need, like I always need it, if you need a little bit of help to just get a little healthier, a little bit of help in the kitchen, Factor Meals is there for you. They have over 30 meals, 60 different add-ons, so you can pick and choose what flavors you want. If you're like me and you can't cook and you don't like prepping and you don't really grocery shop and you don't like the cleanup and you don't really know how to cook anything, Factor Meals is here for you. Couple minutes, you get it done. There's no cleanup, there's no prep, and it's healthy. There's variety and it tastes incredible. And now you can get it super cheap. You head over to factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50. Use code lockedoncollege50 and you get 50% off your first order. You're getting free food that way. That's a great way to combat rising prices of food. Get your Factor for half off your first month, and you get 20% off your next month. That's code lockedoncollege50 at factormeals.com. Our episode is also brought to you by our great friends over at eBay Motors. Listen, I've talked to you guys about some of my car troubles. I drove one car. It got over 200,000 miles. I drove it till it literally died. They could have done a chalk outline around this car in the gas station. I was like, ka-chung, and that was it. Like, I drive my cars pretty hard. They're my ride or dies. They get me to where I got to go. And eBay Motors is there to help keep my ride or die alive. Right now, go over to eBay Motors. He's got the right parts, the right prices, the right fit. It's way better than going to any of those other auto stores where you have to put on pants to go somewhere. I'm podcast, man. You don't even know if I got pants on now, right? You can get all of those stuff over at eBay Motors for your ride or die, whatever your car needs, from the safety, security, and convenience of your home, shipped to you. eBay guaranteed fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. All right, let's get back into some of these comments. Your thoughts, a bunch to talk about, a bunch of comments I want to get into. Really appreciative of everyone in the community, as always. A couple more comments here I want to get into off the Twitter. Anthony Davis, former Wisconsin running back. Interesting comment here. The new style of offense has stripped us of some of our advantages and leveled the playing field for other teams. Teams no longer have to worry about getting steamrolled for 4 quarters. Hoping we can get it together. The bowl game showed us a glimpse. AD was a stud, right? AD was a monster running back. I would push back a little bit on the idea that the new playing style has leveled the playing field for other teams. I don't think it's the playing style thing. I think it's execution. I think it's execution, maybe personnel, maybe play calling. Listen, this playing style, and again, I'm not trying to say, I think AD is right in the sense that we've lost some of the physicality advantage we'd have against teams like this, where against lesser teams, we could just generally steamroll them, but you're not going to steamroll the really good teams. So I think we had to adapt and advance our offense, and this offense works. We've seen it. We've literally seen Phil Longo create this offense at North Carolina and Ole Miss. It works. It's not working at Wisconsin, not because of the scheme which works all over the country for a lot of other programs. It's not working because we're either not executing it well enough, or we still don't have the right personnel, or it's just week 1. Right? Last year was year 1, and this is just week 1, and we're going to see some differences in week 2. I don't think it's the scheme, and I don't think we've leveled the playing field because of the scheme. I think it's the other issues. But I love AD, man. Let's get a couple more comments in here. And I apologize, my StreamYard is running a little slow. I didn't put these up. So we'll go to the comment section while some of these wait. There it is. Brian Smith, who comes on the show all the time, Recruiting Insider, said, I did not expect eye-opening numbers from Tyler Van Dyke, but with Wisconsin's receivers, the following stat line is a bad sign of things to come. Yeah. Like, Tyler Van Dyke averaged 5.3 yards per pass. That's bad. No touchdowns under 200 yards. Brian Smith's right. Like, if that is what we get from the passing game this year, this team is going to struggle to make a bowl game. I mean, it's as simple as that. Because we were, listen, that's not a great defense we were playing, and they were loading the box. We should have eviscerated that secondary, quite frankly. We should have been able to take a scapula, whatever that thing is doctors use. Oh my gosh. We should have been able to take that to the interior of that Western Michigan defense, and we couldn't do it, right? We should have been able to dice them up with the way they were loading up against the run. Yeah, so Brian's right. Like, if that's what we get from the passing game, I'm not saying it is. It's 1 week. But if that's what we get, there's going to be problems, and this team's probably not going to go bowling with the schedule we have if that's the type of offense we end up getting. It is week 1. I keep saying that. I don't want to overreact to it, but it is not quite good enough. Vince Beagle said, my man Chez Malusi's back. There's 2 guys here. that I just think all Badger fans, no matter what happens on the field, and listen, we're not going to be happy if it's a bad year, but you got to be so thrilled for Aaron Witt and Jase Medical to fight through all the injuries, to be out there making plays. I thought Ches looked good. And then Aaron Witt is the other one, right? Aaron Witt on the 4th and 1 stop with all the injuries he's dealt with. Like, if you're just a fan of humanity, those are great things to see. Chris James, the former Badger running back, man, Coach Kristen Leonard would have had us up 43-0 with 3 running backs with over 100 yards on the ground. Again, I'm not disagreeing with Chris or Anthony Davis, but I think there's some rose-colored glasses looking at Paul Chryst. Sure, Paul Chryst in 2017, maybe. Like, what did we look like against Army with Paul Chryst towards the end? What did we look like against Illinois with Paul Chryst towards the end? I think that, listen, I just get a little frustrated because I think the Paul Chryst thing was going downhill pretty quickly. And the Paul Chryst at the end was not the Paul Chryst a lot of these people are pining for. He just wasn't. Now, I said it on the other show. Ultimately, time will decide whether or not Luke Fickell was the right decision to replace Paul Chryst. But I think Paul Chryst had started to run its gambit. So I'm not disagreeing with Chris James, but I don't think towards the end of that Badger tenure, we were up 43-0 with 3 running backs over 100 yards on anybody. That wasn't who Paul Chryst and this Badger program was anymore at that point in time. And it's no disrespect to everything Paul Chryst did here. He won a ton of games, but that wasn't what it was at the end of the Paul Chryst era. And I would continue to push back on that. Colton Bartholomew said at halftime, the good Jase Medical looks good. Receivers, tight ends have been open. Secondary tight coverage. That secondary tight coverage thing is a real thing. That is going to be a strength this year. Bad. The defense line, front 7 as a whole, not controlling things. Missed field goal, clock management. Yeah, that front 7 had issues, man. And they started to lock it down near the end, but there were some gash plays in the rushing attack, and I didn't think the pass rush was quite as electric as we had hoped it would be either. So I think Colton is pretty dead on with that one. All right, let's get into some more of your comments. These are some of the ones from the show or from the YouTube comment section. This is from Chad Miller. Why is everybody freaking out over the rush D? We gave up 3.6 yards per carry, including that ridiculous 26-yard fake field goal. Take that away. We held them to 2.9. Yeah, like Chad's got a point. Right. The statistic. And I made this point on the show too. I do think the offense is the bigger question mark issue here, right? Because ultimately you gave up 14 points. At the beginning of the game, if I told you you're going to give up 14 points, are you good with that? And you'd say, yeah, I think I'm fine with that. Now, context matters. There were moments in the game where it felt like Western Michigan played bully ball with us a little bit. And I think that lingers in your brain, right? Because if they had scored 14, but like one was late and it was kind of garbagey and one just maybe they connected on a couple deep passes, but you can chalk it up to miscommunication. There was a moment in that first half where Western Michigan just played bully ball with us. I think that's what people are sticking on to. But Chad is correct. Like, the rush defense did start to lock it down. And in the second half, it looked better. And they gave up 14 points. I think the offense is the bigger question. I agree with that with Chad. Hot D throws a spicy theory out here. He said, I floated a theory that Wisconsin is Diet Nebraska 20 years later. By being diet, I mean the highs aren't as high, lows aren't as low. In my estimation, Wisconsin is in their Bill Callahan era. Holy crap. Oh, no. Oh, okay. So for anybody who remembers or who was following Nebraska at that time, Bill Callahan was the guy who came into Nebraska and tried to revolutionize their offense, right? I guess there is a similar there to Wisconsin going to the air raid. Bill Callahan failed miserably, had some really nice recruiting classes, built some hype, and then that thing was an utter disaster. I am going to push back so heavily on Wisconsin being in the Bill Callahan Jurassic era of their team. Like, no. Luke Fickell is so much more proven than Bill Callahan, who is a tremendous offensive line guy. But that is spicy. That is spicy. I am not going there with that one. That is a crazy take to me, Hot D. Kevin W says, but did you see those crisp snaps? I only saw one high snap. Renfro. Listen, we solved that one, right? We checked that one off. I thought the snaps were good. Offensive line, I think at times, it's so hard. I need to go back and watch it. I haven't actually rewatched it yet. That'll be on a show and will come up this week. It's hard to, in the game, it felt like Western Michigan was really loading the box. I know there were times I looked and they had 9 or 10 guys within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. It felt like the offensive line did okay, but probably not up to standards. But the snapping issues did go away, which I really appreciate. All right, we're going to take one more quick break for our friends of the show. Come back. We're going to get your comments in the live channel here and just finish up on our kind of community show the day after. We're going to do these every game. I'm really excited about it. Appreciate everybody in the community as always. One quick break for our final friends of the show over at 5 Hour Energy. Talked about it. I had 5 Hour Energy the other day. It's great for me, man. Like sometimes I drink tons of coffee. That comes back from my Navy days, like coffee. But sometimes, man, you just need a quick one. You just need a quick picker up. 5hourenergy.com. Go, like I use it after lunch. I got a lot on my to-do list, right? So I'll bang that out. No sugar. It's small. Tastes good. I get the watermelon. And it helps me knock out all the stuff I got to do. Like right after this, I'm going to go out to the garage. We're working on building our offices. I got a 5 Hour Energy. And right now, there's a great offer for Locked On Badgers listeners. You know we got you. You know I got you. Right now, go to 5hourenergy.com. Use the code LOCKEDONCFB, and you're going to receive 20% off your order. You can build your own 12-pack, 24-pack, so you can get all the flavors you want. They have the cornucopia flavors over there. So get all this stuff on your honey-do list done over at, use 5 Hour Energy to help you do that. You can't use it with other offers. You can't use it on subscriptions, but it is a great way to get some 5 Hour Energy in your back pocket at 20% off. That's 5hourenergy.com. Use code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. All right, let's finish up. I want to get your comments in the live chat now. And again, this show is entirely about the community, about y'all, about how you're feeling. How you feeling today? Let's get some live stuff in here. Jackson Johnson, great dude, says, what's up, Badger Nation? Dom said, I want to bring this back up. He said, you can't play a 2-4-5 in this league. I think you can if you have a better interior defensive line. I do think you can do that, but you need the right people. And like, if you go look at Georgia's defensive tackles, and I'm not saying you got to get that guy or one of those guys because those are hard to get, but or Michigan, right? They'll have a 320-pound immovable object in the middle. That's what you need, I think, to play effectively a 2-4-5 in this league. Now, I do think the staff would rather play more 3-3-5 at times, but the defensive line depth just isn't very good. And losing James Thompson Jr. inhibits some of that. So I don't think it's that they can't do it, or I don't think it's that you can't do it. I just think if you're looking at a Curtis Neal, Ben Barton, Elijah Hills, that type of grouping, I don't think it's quite big enough to play a 2-4-5. And the staff, I bet, knows that. I bet you the staff thinks, man, I wish Jamel Howard could play right now, right? Or I wish we had a Keanu Benton type. And if you have that type, I think you can do it. It's just personnel limited right now, unfortunately. Mikey says, what I saw last night is this team did improve from last year and lacks true playmakers. I would hold off on that. I hear you. I do think the team is better than last year. I really do. Because, first of all, in terms of true playmakers, I think Tretch and Pauling are both that guy. I do think the offensive line is a little better with Renfro. I think the linebackers are better. I think the secondary is better. But there's certainly question marks, right? I think that front seven against the rush is a question mark. I don't think the linebackers lived up to the expectations that people had. I thought we were hoping to see a little bit more on those 3rd and 8s that Western Michigan had, where you saw some of the edge guys just beating offensive linemen. We didn't see enough of that. But I do genuinely still think this team is better than last year. It is still just one game until we get a second. Thank you, Captain Obvious. But one games can be aberrations a little bit. I'm very interested to see what they clean up and what they can do for week 2. And after week 2, if it looks very similar, then we got issues. Then it's a trend. And then you have to start wondering. Wes Molinek says we looked lost. I just didn't think we looked aggressive, man. It looked a little bit like a scrimmage in some senses in the first half. Like it felt like we were working on something, right? It felt like if you ever watch spring baseball, spring training, and the pitchers are told, hey, pitcher number 2 is like, hey, he's just going to work on his curve and his slider today. We're not going to let him use his fastball because we're just trying to get him to work on some stuff. It felt like our offense was just working on our short game, right? Like we were just on the greens and we were just putting. We're gonna use our driver next week, but we're just kind of working through some stuff today. And I know that's hyperbole. I know it's ridiculous. That's not actually what it was, but that's kind of what it felt like it was, right? Like we're just gonna work on quick decision making from Tyler Van Dyke today in the run game. Like next practice, we're gonna work on the deep verts. So I don't know. To me, it didn't feel lost. It just felt like we were playing 2/3 of our playbook, and I'm not sure. Jeremy Cossum says it's going to be another mediocre year. I hope not. I'm not there. I'm not ready to go there. I'm not bailing on my optimism yet. I'm really not. Michael B says I lost sleep thinking about this D-line. Yeah. Welcome to the club there. Dark Ray says, what's up, Brian? What's up, man? Dark Ray's a good dude, even though him and I disagree at times on stuff. He's a good dude, man. Wes Molinek's hoping Tommy Heiberger gets healthy. Yeah, but I don't think he's the answer. right? I'm hoping he gets healthy because he's going to be a stud and getting him reps this year. I had him. I'm trying to remember my recruiting show. I had him as like the 4th or 5th highest upside guy in that class. Like he's a monster athletically, but I don't think he's the answer this year. I really don't. But I hope he gets healthy just because he can help on special teams, give you more depth, all those type of things. Bo Dragon, if Western Michigan's defenders could catch a ball thrown right to them, they would have had 4 picks. I think maybe 2 or 3, but yeah, no, you're totally right. Like, and I talked about it in the post game. I thought Van Dyke threw 3-ish interception worthy plays, and he got lucky. Like if it walks like an elephant and it talks like an elephant, don't call it a duck, man. It's an elephant. Like he got lucky. He got lucky in that game. There was multiple plays where I thought he made poor decision, poor read, or poor throw, or some combination of the above, and Wisconsin got lucky. Like against a really good secondary, there would have been multiple picks. Some of that is I think I've always said this. Offenses are ecosystems. Some of that is receivers not being on the same page potentially. It looked like there were some miscommunications at times with Will Pauling. Some of that is pass protection, maybe not holding up quite as well. But ultimately, if you're Van Dyke, you're a 5th-year senior, you're brought here to captain the ship, right? To make the correct decisions. And more times than not in yesterday's game, I shouldn't say more times than not, he threw 36 passes. But there were moments in yesterday's game where I was like, dude, you can't throw that ball, man. And he would say that. Phil Longo would say the same thing. So, yeah, I don't know. Dark Gray, TBD is a slower version of Tanner Mordecai. I'm not there yet. I think it's one game and it's kind of a weird game script that I don't know. I'm not there yet. Like Van Dyke does have a way better arm than Mordecai. And some of those quick intermediate throws, Mordecai, I don't know if he fits it in as much. Yeah, I'm not there yet. Maybe you guys are right, but I'm not there yet. Let's keep going. Mark D. Malusi is fine. Everybody needs to relax on him. I agree. Like, I don't get the Malusi hate. Like, nobody is calling him Jonathan Taylor. He's not a tier A running back, right? You have your tier A running backs who are the Jonathan Taylors. They're the Amir Abdullahs. If you remember back to Nebraska, they are the, Travion types. Like, they're the, and then there's the tier B guys. Chez Malusi is a solid tier B running back for a major college football program. Like, you can do way, way worse than Chez. There was a weird swing pass where I don't know why he didn't catch the ball in yesterday's game. I'd have to go back and watch it. It felt like he just didn't get his head around, but I thought he ran exceptionally hard. He probably broke 4 or 5 tackles. I have no issues with Chez at all. Let's see. Bo Dragon talking about the lack of explosive plays. I agree. Tyler Overman, just week 1. Yeah, and I'm there too, Tyler. Like, I am not ready to go crazy on this team just yet. Like, there's things that I don't think were good enough, but they did win. They pulled it out, and ultimately that jump from week 1 to week 2 is going to be vitally important to see. And some of this is clean upable. Like, this team can take deep shots. I saw them attempt it in fall practice against a pretty good secondary. Like, I saw them hit deeper shots, deeper passes down the middle. Like, this team is capable of doing that. I know for a fact they are. So some of these things I don't think are going to be season-long issues. It just felt like a weird game script to me. So I agree. Like, it's just week 1. Now, the things that I'm not sure are going to get fixed, it's like some of the rush defense, some of the defensive line stuff. There's just never going to be enough depth there this year. I do think there'll be occasional decision-making stuff with Van Dyke. I do think our receivers will occasionally struggle getting open. But, yeah, listen, Phil Longo's too good of an offensive coordinator for this to be the game plan the entire year. I firmly believe that. Firmly believe that. Whatever you think of Phil Longo, he hasn't gotten this far in his career because he throws 5-yard button hooks. Like, go look back at what he's done over the course of his career, and you can be down on him, high on him, in the middle of him. This is not his typical game script. So I don't know. It's weird. I'm not that crazy right now. Tyler Reynolds says the number of people freaking out right now is nuts. Yeah, like but I get it, right? Like, you also had to have higher expectations, and this we were down 14-13 against Western Michigan in the third quarter at home. Like, this was a 24.5 point Vegas line. So, like, I agree. Don't throw everything out into the trash right now. It's week 1, but I also understand the perspective of, like, hey, this is kind of what we saw last year. It doesn't look like all these things got fixed. I understand both perspectives on that. Where I'm at is somewhere in the middle. Like, it wasn't good enough, but I also am holding out hope for what we see next week. And maybe I'm being too optimistic on that. I don't think I am. We'll see. Matthew says some fans, ex-players look upon Chris Leonard as immortals. I don't see it. Yeah, like I love what those two did, Matthew, but I also agree with you. There's kind of some revisionist history on how that ended, and they were great. Like you'll never hear me say like a really a bad word about them. They were great, and they were great representations of Wisconsin. But sometimes is just time to move on. And like, yeah, time will tell if Fickell's the right answer to that. But I thought it was time to move on. And I'm not gonna sit here and pine for the end of what we saw at the end of the Chris era. Bunch more comments here. I'm not gonna be able to get to everything, guys. I really do appreciate it as always. Bo Dragon says Walker looked good. Um, Adam N. Does Longo use a script for the first part of his game? I believe he does, but that's a great question, Adam. I believe he does, but I'm not 100% sure. Kenneth says, anyone want to make a bet that they make a bowl game? I'll put 500 on they won't. Kenneth, I think you're crazy. They're making a bowl game. Again, like it's so hard because we have one data point. We have one game, and everybody has swung so far off one game. I still think this running game is going to work. I still like the backs. I still think listen, we saw what Tretch and Pauling did yesterday. You just got to get him the ball more. You got to get Tretch the ball more early and get him more involved. He's a difference maker. We saw it. The defense gave up 14 points. I think they'll be okay. I think the secondary's legit. I don't go so crazy on it, Kenneth. And maybe you end up being right, but this team's making a bowl game. Like, I'm not going to revise my prediction this much based off one game that they still won. They still won this game by 2 touchdowns. So week 1, weird things happen all the time. This wasn't a good enough performance, but it's also not the performance by which I'm going to judge the entire season at this point. Okay, just where I am, just where I'm at. I'm not a big betting man, but I would be tempted to take that 500. Tyler says the issue is you're not going to play Tretch over Pauling. I think you play them together. I think that's the answer to that. And Tyler, you're right. You don't take Pauling off the field, but I think you play them together. I think there's moments where some of the 12 personnel, which is 1 running back, 2 tight ends, it's great. But I mean, I'd rather just have Tretch out there, right? Like, yeah, I know you're going to lose some of the physicality in the blocking game, but stress out the defense. I think Tretch is the bigger weapon there. I think you probably need a little less bully ball, a little more spread them out and run out of the spread, and a little that which puts Tretch on the field. T Temp says, yo, T Temp, what's up, brother? Mikey says they will smash South Dakota. I hope so. South Dakota's a legit FCS team. Like, I think they were ranked 5th in the country. We have a South Dakota journalist coming on. We're going to talk about it, but that's a legit FCS team. If they smash South Dakota, I think collectively we'll all be able to take okay. All right. I don't know if they will smash South Dakota. I kind of wonder if South Dakota might be a little bit better than Western Michigan. Jeffrey Demander's a good friend of the show says Evers got benched. Yeah, I was watching some of Nick Evers' first half against UConn. He was 1 for 5 when I turned it off. Skyler's balling out though. That's good to see. I always kind of root for former Badgers, man. Badger Bill says, can we flip Haywood to defensive tackle? Haywood's going to be too good at tackle to flip. And you need the depth on the offensive line too, right? This is the problem, man. You need depth on both lines. And so, no, you can't take one from the other because both of the reservoirs are too low, right? So that's the problem, man. If there was anybody on the O-line I would want to flip, it's probably Emerson Mandel. I still think he would have been a beast defensive tackle, but you need him on both sides of the ball. So, all right, let's wrap it up there, y'all. You guys are amazing as always. Appreciate the hell out of you. Couple more quick comments from our previous YouTube show. This is from Liam. He said, game is a comfortable win if we simply finish these drives early on. I agree, but we didn't. And this is the point I keep pushing back on. The red zone offense has to be better, and it has been good for a couple years. So I hear it, but can they fix it? I mean, it's a legit question mark. So, all right, we'll wrap it up there. On Wisconsin, appreciate y'all so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. A bunch more content coming up. Some really great guests as well next week. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Badgers. When you're done here, go check out Locked On College Football, 24/7 stream of all the college football news across our community on Wisconsin, and we will talk later.